All right, so Christian Colwell. This is from Colwell Custom Knife Works. This is the MVC. I was not familiar with this maker at all before Elias sent this in with a box of other goodies. And I gotta say, I'm liking it. It's not really my style necessarily. It's very Emerson-esque, Little Strider-esque, but kind of cool. And there, you'll understand why it's Emerson-ish and whatnot in a few minutes as I get into the details and tell you more about the maker and this knife. There's a few things that I think are really cool. There's a few things that I just don't like necessarily about this knife. But Christian Colwell, he started out as a knife modder, and he did a lot of Emerson mods. That was his thing. And then he wanted to make his own knives, and he came up with his own company and started making knives. Now, it runs on Teflon washers. It is sort of a front flipper, but it takes wrist, and it takes wrist even to open it with your thumb because of those Teflon washers and the geometry of the hole, and just a lot of factors go into that. So it is a zero grind or a chisel grind. There is no bevel on this edge at all. It almost looks like it, but it's really not. That is completely flat across this backside. So it only bevels down on this side, which is cool. I like that, and it makes for a very, very sharp edge, even on that Tanto version or Tanto part. So it's very sharp and it's very cool. And part of that is Elias worked on the edge quite a bit when he got it. There was a little bit of damage, he told me. So he actually worked on that edge, which took him a while because it is that zero grind. So I love the finish on the blade. It is big. It's overbuilt. It's kind of in that big, thick, chunky category. But it works well and feels good in the hand. So some of the specs here. It's 6 inches closed, just a hair over 9 3/4 overall, with a 3.89 inch blade, 3.5 inches of cutting edge. Behind the edge is 0 because there is no edge. Like there's no, I'm not going to measure all the way up here. Like, yeah, it goes from here to 0. It's very cool. It's A2 blade steel, weighs in at 8.3 ounces. Overall thickness is 0.611. Now, a couple of things. Let's zoom in here. I really like the way the G10 is finished out here. It's kind of contoured there on the edges. And so it gives you that, you see the whole pattern here, but it kind of drifts off as they ground that down. I love that. I really like the Phillips head screwdriver, the Phillips head screws. Everybody's using a Torx. I think that's cool to have a Phillips. I mean, there's a Torx here on the pivot, but I think the Phillips works for the rest of the hardware. It's kind of cool. The pocket clip works really well. However, you got a lot sticking out of your pocket. Almost to the point where I felt like it was going to be uncomfortable in my pocket when I went to sit down. Like it might just, bend up and tweak into my hip area. It does not. It works great. It's super comfortable. But you just have to remember there is a lot sticking out, which isn't that bad. Like that's not really a negative. It's just an observation. You do have this nice titanium backspacer. I love knives that have full titanium backspacers. Like the whole thing is covered. I like that. I don't know if I prefer that necessarily, but I do like that. I like that better than just a couple barrel spacers usually. I'm more of a, hey, fill in half of the gap with a titanium backspacer or something. That's more just my style. Like I said, love the blade finish. I love the scratches all over. This just, it exudes that it's been worn and carried and used. I think it looks really kind of badass in that regard. I wish it was on bearings or that the action was smoother. That I do wish. I don't really love front flippers, but it works for this particular knife because it really needs some oomph behind it anyway. So I wish the action was better. Now, this is not a brand new knife. That could just mean that it really needs to be cleaned and gone through, pivot adjusted and tuned, if you will. But it's not my knife. And so I'm not going to play with that. It's solid lockup. Titanium liner lock, titanium frame, G10 scales. I think it's a beast. I don't know that it's necessarily my style, but I do like this one. Here it is with a Sharpie and the Spyderco Delica. I like the bigger overbuilt knives. This one weighs in, I think I mentioned it, 8.3 ounces. I've been carrying the Frank Fisher King Battle for about 330 something days daily. That's in the other room. It weighs in at like 12 ounces or something like that. So 10, 12, 8 ounces, that doesn't really bother me at all at this point. So yeah, it is a bigger, heavier knife, but it's got a lot of blade. It's got a lot of handle. And I think it's in the right weight category, the right weight class, if you will. Only thing I wish, the action was better. Other than that, I really like it. Here it is next to a custom Hellraiser just because I can. And I have one sitting right here. This one also has a shorter backspacer. What do I have that has oh, here's one. The RJ Martin Q36. Not all the way, but more than 3/4. One of the knives that I absolutely love in my collection. If I could only have one knife out of all the knives I own for the rest of my life, I had to pick one, and that was going to be the knife. Probably be this one. As much as I love the battles, this is just a bit more practical, daily carry, daily use blade shape. So there you go. Says the guy who's been carrying a battle for almost a whole year now. So yeah, stay tuned. End of December, I will have a video out that talks about my journey of carrying the same exact knife for an entire year and how that's changed my thinking and what that's done to me, because there has been it's been a mental thing. So stay tuned for that towards the end of December of 2024. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Elias, thanks so much for sending this in. I love checking out makers that I had no idea existed. Have a great day, guys.